Hey there, welcome back. Okay, so yeah, we're starting all over again. So what we were doing was we were taking all of our seedlings from the greenhouse and putting them into another building, the bunkhouse, that we wanted to keep warm anyway from freezing because of the plumbing. But all the power went out, so we are starting all over again. So here's what we've got going on. Okay, so there's a lot of little teeny tiny plants that we just don't know if they're going to make it or not. So what we're redoing is recycling all of the soil, because this is a lot of really good soil still. And what we're doing is we're just dumping it all back in here, and then we'll be repotting and replanting all of our seeds again. But we just didn't have enough sunlight to heat up the greenhouse. When it was overcast, it was cloudy, it was snowing, there just wasn't enough sunlight to warm up the greenhouse. So the plants stayed inside where there was no electricity, where there was no heat. So yeah, that's what's going on. Now I just keep going past these trays and I see there's one little seedling that looks like it might have made it, but we're just going to start all over. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of show you what's going on with the plants that are in the ground. So really it's just so unprecedented what happened here. I've talked about this on the podcast before, but when you have a big weather event, it's a really good idea to walk around and look at what is going on and read the landscape. Like right here, it's melting first. Over here, it's melting last. Just make a note of it, use it later. So this is the garlic that I planted right here. Let me just get up close so you can see. This is what it looks like now. I've never really had a problem with garlic dying back, but everyone always said, don't worry, it'll die back and then it'll come back when everything warms up. So I have a lot of garlic and it's planted in a wavy pattern here. And I'm not worried about the garlic. The garlic is going to do just fine. It'll perk back up, it'll come back. Now it does appear that the artichokes died back. So that's going to be interesting to see whether they come back or not, because last year was my first year to plant artichokes. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. A lot of my oregano plants look like this underneath. So yay, I really didn't want to lose all my oregano plants because I have a bunch of them. So I'll probably be just doing some trimming later when everything warms up. I'm not doing that right now. Because I don't touch anything that looks like it's still frosted. I just don't touch the leaves. But this kale plant looks fine. A bunch of oregano that's just still under the snow. It's in this little microclimate. Over there it's all thawed out and everything is fine. But that's a warmer microclimate. This little microclimate is just not thawed out yet. It's because the sun, that's the south, the sun is being blocked out by the shade of these oak trees right here. This is my oak guild. I use those trees as an overstory, but I'm not touching that. I'm not trying to remove the snow or blow dry it or anything like that. I see green leaves under here. I think it's going to be fine. So the lemongrass, of course, is done. The lemongrass, it just doesn't survive our winters here in Zone 8. The catnip is doing just fine. It's a perennial, so I'm really glad about that. So the sage appears to be fine. It's never had a problem in the winters here before, but again, this is unprecedented. I'm not worried about my pear trees, my cherry trees, my plum trees, my apple trees, or anything like that, but we'll see. But it does appear that the Larkspur is doing just fine. I've never had a problem in the winters in the past, but this year, I just did not know what to expect. Here's some more. I better be careful where I'm stepping, but here's some more that's coming out, peeking out from under the snow. A bunch of thyme that I had planted, and it appears that it's okay. I'm not going to touch it. I want to make sure I don't touch anything when it's frosted. But the Bluebonnets, all seem to be alive. The irises all seem to be doing fine. The Shasta Daisies, I'm surprised. So I don't know really what's going to happen with these Shasta Daisies, if they're going to make it. But this is what I call kind of the igloo effect. You know how the Eskimos use igloos for warmth? This is providing some sort of insulation, and the ground was probably warm enough underneath to keep this plant alive, hopefully. We're getting into that cilantro patch that I did a video about back in last spring, and we have just a ton of cilantro growing in here, but it all looks pretty good. I think that the cilantro is going to be fine. There's some more cilantro coming up right there. There's some more cilantro. Seems to be fine. But I'm really trying not to walk in the beds because I don't want to step on anything that I can't see under the snow. And then the onions are fine. Here's the onions right here. They may lose some of their tops, but I think they're going to be fine. I hope. But we had -7 or -9 was our lowest, but it was for a very long extended period, like a week. For us in Zone 8 here in Texas, that's a big deal. It's unprecedented. It's never happened before in my lifetime. And so I'm just really making a lot of notes and observations. Observation is your best friend when it comes to the plants. I am not going to go pull anything out of the ground. I'm not going to try to do anything. I'm just going to watch and see what happens. I'm really concerned about this lavender though. I don't think it's going to make it. I'll probably have to buy more lavender plants. I have them all throughout over there. So this edge right here thawed first. This is thawing last. That's thawing first. I really believe this is because this is the edge with a lot of sun exposure. This is the south is that way. There's a lot of sun exposure and the stepping stones. You're probably thinking, why is she rambling on about microclimates? Well, when you have a big weather event, this is a great time to get out and go just observe. Just look and see what is going on with where the snow is melting first, where it's melting last. If you just have kind of frost on a regular winter day, then you can go and see, oh, okay, that's a warm spot, that's a cool spot. When it comes to planting in the summertime, then you have a really good idea of some of the plants that you can make last a little bit longer because you just plant it in its own little microclimate. Horseradish, it completely died back, but it should be fine. It should grow back up in the spring, but we'll see. I don't know about that one. The thyme all did fine. The Dusty Miller seems to be just fine. I don't know what's going to happen with the snapdragons. And then this is where the celery was, or it is. I just don't know what's going to happen when all the snow melts. This is one of the very first spots that dried out first. My husband said, is something wrong with our soil here? And I said, no, I don't think so. I think it's just, this is the southwest exposure. This is the hottest part, I think, of any of the gardens that I have is right here. I'm really surprised that this parsley just is, it's looking like it's just going to bounce back. Like, hey, what just happened? So this is a really good example of the oregano. It's got a lot of, I'm touching this because I know it's going to die. And I'm going to have to trim all this back. But when I say trim it back, I'm just going to take it down to where the new growth is. You can see there's green leaves there. And I'll just be cutting off all this black stuff. It's freezer burned, right? And I'm not going to do it now. I'm going to wait until it warms up. And then I'm just going to reassess the situation. Maybe I'll do a totally separate video on that, but the rest of this oregano is going to be fine. Let's go over to the Huglekultur bed. So we planted some brand new rosemary in a recent video that we did. It looks like, I just don't know. I just don't know what to think about it because it really didn't have a chance to get established. So I wouldn't be surprised if they die back. But the leaves just don't look as green as they should. brand new planting, hasn't had a chance to get established, and I'm thinking that they're probably going to die. But this other rosemary right here, it kind of looks the same way. Like they're just kind of brown. They're not as green as they normally are, but I'm thinking that because it's been in the ground longer and it's been established longer, that it's probably going to be fine down at the base on the roots. Another thing I'm taking notice of, this western edge is thawing first. This southern edge is thawing last. Yes, it's a southern edge, but it has some protection from these trees. Even though there's not a lot of leaves on there, I've always known that it's cooler because of the overstory from these trees. And I always plant things that are more tender greens that can't take the heat when it starts warming up. And I plant those things usually on this side, and I did just do a recent video about that. But on the other edge, on the northern edge, it's thawing out first. You see that? It doesn't make a lot of sense when you take it at face value, but I'm trusting what the land is telling me. All the cactus is doing fine. Back to the seedlings and the seeds. I did a Facebook Live about this, but it's people first, animals, and then plants. We were on rolling blackouts. They were giving us a little bit of energy, for 45 minutes on, 45 minutes off, an hour on, an hour off, 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off, whatever it was they were doing. It didn't seem to be anything consistent, but we were trying to conserve the energy. Even when the energy came on, we were trying to protect the pipes in the bunkhouse, but we weren't really trying to keep the plants alive over keeping the animals and us alive. So we just kind of gave up after it got so cold and with no heat and no power, that we were just too busy, carrying melting buckets of ice and filling up bathtubs when the power came on, and then all the pipes froze, and it was a matter of survival, which we did. So, all right. Oh, I want to tell you too, thank you so much for everybody that reached out to me and said, hey, how are you guys doing? People from out of state, knowing that us Texans really can't handle the cold weather, but you know what? This is something that I've said on a Facebook post, but the Texas grid might be debatable, but Texas grit never is. So that's going to do it for this one. Until next time, bye for now.